Hello and welcome to the Discover History YouTube channel. And if you remember, and if you watched the video from last night, we asked you to gather together a few things to do a craft. So hopefully you have got in front of you some cardboard. Now this is an old envelope, an old stiff envelope that I'm going to be using, and it's best to recycle stuff. So hopefully you've got some cardboard. Hopefully you've got some paper. I'm just using parchment style paper. However, you could just take normal paper, or if you wanted to, get some normal paper and stain it with coffee or tea to give it a brown effect. Now that's not saying all paper was old years ago, but if you look at things such as vellum or calf skin parchment that was used for paper years ago, it's not a pure white colour. So it just gives it a more authentic feel as such, really, if you have something that's off white, but you don't have to. So hopefully you've got your cardboard, hopefully you've got your paper. I also asked to find and locate an old plastic wallet, and I say old because you will have to cut this up, and it's the sort of wallet that you use to put paper in to keep it clean and keep it nice and flat. So if you've got one of those, that'd be fantastic. You also need obviously your glue, your scissors, and also a pen. So hopefully you've got those things in front of you and you're ready to do a craft. Now what we're going to actually do, we're going to make something that will look a bit like what Tudor rich children used to have when they went to school. Now, if you go back to the Tudor era, books were very, very expensive things. Books have been around for a long time. If you think about the ones that were wrote on parchment, vellum, even some of the Egyptian ones that were wrote on papyrus paper, they're really expensive things. We take books for granted these days. We often pick them up at one of the recycle places. For example, the old telephone boxes that often have bookcases in. We often pick up second-hand books, and even a brand new book is relatively cheap. But in the past, they were expensive. So there weren't many books around, and if you were lucky enough to get an education in the Tudor era, children often used to carry one of these. This is known as a hornbook, and all it is a piece of paper stuck onto a wooden board, and it's covered in a tiny, very thin slither of cow's horn. And it's quite an amazing thing because cow's horn can be produced or can be made into pretty much anything, really. It's what I always describe as nature's plastic. So what you actually do is, if you were making one of these for real, you would take a cow's horn, boil it, slice it up and fold it flat. It goes really, really soft when you boil it up. And this slither is being placed over the paper, so when children are actually following the writing on it, they don't rub the ink away. So it's a very clever thing, and they usually came on a cord. So if you have a look at some pictures of Tudor children going to school, they often have these hanging from a belt, for example. We also know that lanterns years ago often had slithers of cow horn actually in place of glass, and that's one of the reasons why a lantern is called a lantern. It comes from the word lanhorn, when years ago it was cow's horn that kept the wind and the draft out from the candles in the lantern. So we're going to make a horn book, and like I said, it's called a horn book because of the cow's horn in the middle there. Now, we can't really make one using wood and cow's horn, but we're going to make one in our homes out of cardboard. So hopefully you've got your cardboard. Like I said, I've got my old envelope, and we need to cut it to a shape similar to that, a bit like a little paddle or a bat. And what you should end up with, therefore, is something like that. That's one I made earlier. You also want to cut out some strips. Two that are going down the sides of our cardboard, so two longer strips. So these need to be the same size as the board that you've made. And then you also need to make some shorter ones that are going to go inside, because we need to make sure there is a framework made out of cardboard. in reality that could be cow's horn also, or it could be wood like you have on this one. So hopefully you've cut out your cardboard horn book, the two sides and then two shorter sides. And then what we have to do is take our bit of paper, cut it slightly smaller so it actually sits inside the cardboard paddle. So it needs to be even smaller than that, or maybe at that size, because we're going to give it a border anyway. And then you need to write on it. Now inside a horn book you often have to start with the alphabet. It sits at the very top. That enables the children to copy. They can look at it and know how the letters are individually formed. You also have underneath the vowels A, E, I, O, U, and then you often have letters, for example A, B, E, B, I, B, and so on. Letters which have sounds associated with them. And then it usually has the Lord's Prayer wrote underneath. So hopefully you've taken your bit of paper, taken your pen, and you've wrote down the alphabet at the top, maybe the Lord's Prayer, something that you might want to recite in the future, maybe even a little poem or something like that. Write it all down, and then once you've wrote it, you want to glue it into the centre of your paddle, into the centre of your board. So you glue it on, and then we take our plastic from our old little plastic wallet, and you need to cut out a tiny little square that will cover that writing, and this is going to be used instead of cow's horn. So even though I said cow's horn is nature's plastic, we're going to have to use plastic. And the good thing about this is we're recycling old plastic. We're not putting it into landfill. The same with using an old envelope, for example. We're recycling it and using it for a little craft activity. When you go back to school, you could always take these to your teacher and show them what you have produced and say this is what children took to school in Tudor times. So we've now got our replica piece of horn. We then glue that over the writing, and then we stick down the borders. So what we should end up with now is something that looks like that. I've just done this pretty quick. So we've got our cardboard battledore, your board that it's resting on. We've got our individual framework, 4 parts. We've got our picture or our writing in the middle there, the alphabet, the vowels, we've even got the Lord's Prayer on there. We've got our plastic sheet and we've sandwiched it all together. If you wanted to, you can always make a hole at the bottom, add a cord to it, and what you should have produced this afternoon is a replica Tudor horn book carried by school children when books were really expensive things. So hopefully you've made one of those. Please share your photographs on our social media, be it Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Please show us what you've done. And remember, if you want more crafts, tell us what you would like to see us do. Would you like more tips on cookery? Would you like more on local history? And as we always say, this is as much your channel as it is our channel. Stay safe, stay at home, and enjoy Easter. Happy Easter, everyone, from All It Discover History. Bye.